Coming up on this episode of the Upper One podcast, local athletes of the week, a football legend, and a few birthdays, January 3rd, January 6th, and January 8th, that are celebrated the first week of January.
And now podcasting from the great state of Alaska, this is the Upper One Podcast.
Thanks again for joining me on this episode of the Upper One Podcast. Before I get started, thank you all for listening. For those of you that do pay attention to my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if you've shared any of my posts or any of my episodes, I want to thank you for that. So getting started, one of the things that happens up here with one of the local news outlets, they do Athletes of the Week. And most of the time it's always like a local high school athlete or, something along those lines that's happened here. Well, the week of December 28th, there was a local athlete of the week, and his name is JT Thor. This kid moved to Anchorage when he was 5. He played his freshman year, his 9th grade year at West High School, and at the age of 14, he moved to Virginia. And then later on, he moved to Georgia, where he graduated from Norcross High School. He got a scholarship to the Division I Auburn University, where he averaged 9.4 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.4 blocks a game. This kid is 6'9". He's got a 7'3" wingspan. I can't tell you what my wingspan is. I can guarantee it's not 7'3". But to be that's 4 inches. Usually your wingspan is wider than you are tall, but so I guess mine would probably be maybe like, I don't know if I got an inch off of my height. If I was 6'9" wingspan, I guess I could be happy. Selected 37th overall in 2021 by the Charlotte Hornets. They put him at the affiliate in the G League, the Greensboro Swarm, so he played the early portion of this season there. He got called up on December 13th against the 76ers. In the first quarter of that game, he took a baseline pass, 2-foot jump stop, saw this guy, he's a big name, and he just did a tomahawk posterized dunk over Andre Drummond. He was quoted saying, "I saw him there. I knew I just had to do it, so I went for it." And I'd imagine with all the video and stuff, you could probably pause it and make a poster out of him. Since then, he's played 8 games, scoring 24 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks. And one of the things he says is that his teammates are always asking him what his life is like in Alaska. Is it really dark that long? Does the sun really stay up that long? What's it about? He says, I've told them about 100 times. I've explained it on what it really is like. So that's TJ Thor of Anchorage. Now that I know about him, I didn't really know about him before today, but I'm going to pay attention. If the Charlotte Hornets are playing, I'm going to watch, because I do like to support our local athletes, even though I'm not big on watching the NBA anymore. This next guy needs no introduction. In 1988, he lent his voice and commentary as well as coaching knowledge to I don't even know what it was back then, if it was EA Sports or what, but John Madden. There's Madden football. Everybody who's a football fan knows about the video game. They know about John Madden. One of the things that, there's not a whole lot I can say that people don't already know, but I've just a few little tidbits here that catch my interest. The history of that video game, it was once said that if you were on the cover, you either got jinxed or you got cursed. And I believe that started with a baseball player, but I don't have the facts for what that originally started. But the cover was jinxed. If you were on it, like the next year or for a certain time period after that, you either sucked, you threw interceptions, you did something. I think Steve McNair was on it one year for Tennessee, and he threw more interceptions that next year than he did touchdowns or something along those lines. So that has since been debunked. I think it just gone quiet. People forgot all about it. It hasn't really came to fruition, but that was one of the things that I remember most, other than playing these video games, playing Madden, was the cover curse. So John Madden did play football. He was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, but he never really played an official game. Never took a snap, never took it down. He was more of an off-season and or practice squad member for Philadelphia. So that was 58. In 1960 and 61, he was an assistant coach for Allen Hancock College, and then he became the head coach 1962 to 63. He was a defensive coordinator for San Diego State 1964 to 66. Then he went on to the Oakland Raiders, where he was a linebackers coach from 67 to 68, and became the head coach from 69 to 78, where he won Super Bowl 11 over the Minnesota Vikings. He never had a losing season as a head coach, where he accumulated a 112, 39-7 record. And in 2006, he was inducted to the Football Hall of Fame. Most everybody should know this, that he never flew anywhere. And he said it wasn't that he's scared about flying or the turbulence or the heights. It was mostly claustrophobia. Being 6'8", I can relate. I'm not claustrophobic, but being on those planes sometime when you're shut up in that cabin, you got people around you kicking your chairs, you kind of get a little anxious. It could be, some people could consider it claustrophobia. Not me. I just don't like being on the plane as long. And like I said, having my seat kicked or person in front of you laying their seat back and hitting my knees. So I'm an aisle guy. I like to sit in the aisle. So back in the 80s, there was a Saturday Night Live appearance. And from wherever he was traveling from to get to New York, he took a train. And then mostly after that, he rode the Amtrak until 1987, where Greyhound supplied him with a custom bus that was later dubbed the Madden Cruiser. And over the years, the Pro Bowl was always in Honolulu. It was always in Hawaii. So Madden never did commentary for the Pro Bowl. And I can't remember, somebody's going to have to fact check me on this, but there were those couple of years where they did bring the Pro Bowl over here to the mainland, and I'm not sure, I don't remember. This is one of the stats of all the player stats and sports stats that I cannot remember whether or not Madden did commentary for any of those Pro Bowls that were here on the mainland. So last thing, I think this shows some of the utmost respect, is the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell. He said, and I quote, "John Madden was football," adding, "There will never be another John Madden, and we will forever be indebted to him for all he did to make football and the NFL what it is today." John Madden died December 28th, 2021 at the age of 85. All right, so I'm going to come right back and we will get on with the show. We've got a few more things to talk about, just some local happenings and goings on with stuff that's happened towards the end of the year and into this wonderful new year that we've already started. All right, welcome back. So, as I stated, we just started the new year. For the first time in 2 years, the Anchorage Downtown Partnership held a New Year's Eve celebration downtown with fireworks, music. They made a sledding hill for the kids. Miss America Emma Boyles attended, and even a Soldotna resident who, is about 2.5 hours south of Anchorage, Coach Ty Lapule, is a football coach at Soldotna High School, came up to enjoy the festival. So there was a lot of cool stuff. Unfortunately for people, just because it is late in the night, most of the places around here on New Year's Eve, they set off the fireworks around 8 p.m. just so people can enjoy the evening. And, back in my day when the partying was going on, you were inside a bar and you weren't watching fireworks when the clock run midnight. So this kind of helps people enjoy the night going into those wee hours before the clock strikes 0. So that was New Year's Eve. Just over the same weekend, north of Anchorage is the Matanuska-Susitna Valleys, where they converge around the Talkeetna Mountains as it gets down to the Knik Arm, where both rivers that are in those valleys, dump off into the Knik Arm at the northern part of Cook Inlet. So there were a whole bunch of high winds over this past weekend, and it almost seemed like it wasn't letting up. At times there were 80-mile-an-hour winds. I seen that school has been canceled for the first couple days of the week. There were local personal airplanes, as well as, tractor trailer trucks overturned on the highway. Planes were turned over on the Palmer Airport. There were pictures of them basically where the wind caught them, took the tail. If you just flip the tail up, ass over tea kettle, and put that plane right down on the top of the wings. That's what it looked like the wind had done. Part of the highway getting out to the valley from Anchorage as you come down off of Eklutna onto the Palmer Hay Flats. You cross the Knik River and then the Matanuska River, and then you're on the Hay Flats for, I think it's about 1.5 miles long, almost 2 miles long, before the Palmer-Wasilla interchange. Well, the state troopers were out there because the wind was blowing so much and there were snow drifts that they were acting as pilot cars. And I heard a story from one of my coworkers, the office manager. He was saying that he went out to Lowe's and traffic was doing like 30 miles an hour while the troopers were acting as pilot cars, getting them across the flats. My buddy Brian that drives for a trucking company here, he's a hostler. He didn't go into details, but I think he always delivers out to some of the grocery stores out in the valley. And he was telling me that there was a truck on the interchange that made it across the bridge. So, going into Palmer, you take an exit, and the exit takes you up over the road you were just on, and then back down underneath it. It's a weird interchange, but it's very proficient. But that truck made it up over that bridge, and then as it's coming down, it got tipped over. And then another one just about 1 mile from there was up on another exit and made it right off the exit and got tipped over. So everybody has heard of Texas tumbleweeds. Well, part of the wind was blowing like 8x8 or whatever size around that, 6x6s and maybe even 10x10s. They were blowing sheds across the highways and the roads, and it looked like a big, I'm not saying Texas because Texas ain't bigger anymore, but it looked like a tumbleweed that was a shed. There were power outages all over the place. I think at one point I heard that there was somewhere between 15 and 17,000 people without power still. My stepson and his family, they were out of power. I think they have on the back deck of their house, they have an enclosed room for a hot tub, and the walls around that room were ripped off. There is a Cars Safeway store in Wasilla where the storefront was ripped off, causing water pipes to burst. I've seen pictures if you want to see a big icicle with the water pipes bursting. It looked like a big icicle across the front of that store. It got so bad that our governor made a disaster declaration for the Matsu Borough. So just like when we had the earthquake, there's going to be people, applying for FEMA and stuff like that to get help, to get stuff taken care of. So that was just some stuff in the news. You usually say, out with a bang and ringing in the new year. So far, that bang has not stopped. I was fortunate here in Eagle River where I'm at. I'm a little to the east of the line of sight of those winds. We did have a few power flickers, but our power never went out. We never got any winds. Nothing was blown around at my house. So I was fortunate. But, the next time those winds could be coming down this valley that I live in. With that being said, I'm going to take a final break, come back with a third segment, and talk about the birthdays in the first week, actually 8 days of January, that mean a little bit to me. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. This is the third and final segment. And as I have been doing, everything, all of my podcasts have been about Alaska and what to expect about being a tourist, coming up here, what you want to do. So I'm going to start this third segment off kind of backwards. I'm going to start with January 8th. The birthday that means a lot to me on that day. His birthday is none other than the King, Elvis Aaron Presley. He was born January 8th, 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi. Everybody knows he spent all his time in Memphis at Graceland, where he had his home, and it's a park now, theme park. Elvis died August 16th, 1977. Just some background about Elvis. I liked Elvis a lot before this story, this little segment I'm going to tell you. But back in 2007, I was driving across the road. I'm a truck driver. I was over the road for Swift, and when you're by yourself, you kind of go into a slump, or some things happen, and in your mind, you get in your head a little bit, and it could lead to a lot of stuff. Well, for me, that didn't happen. I would get on the road, I'd get bored, I'd start thinking about things. I'd miss in Alaska, I want to come home. Missing my family in New Mexico, I want to go home. Well, I had I think back then it was the XM satellite before they merged with Sirius. So when I started when I started getting my head and doing stuff like that, I turned the Elvis channel on, and Elvis kind of, I mean, layman's terms, straightened me out. But that's not all. I was married on St. Patrick's Day in Vegas at the Graceland Wedding Chapel by an Elvis impersonator. So that's what means a lot to me. That's why Elvis means a lot to me. So that's one birthday in January. The next birthday, as I'm going backwards, is January 6th, 1912. My home state of New Mexico was admitted into the Union on January 6th. And just as I'm going to go over this next one, kind of the same way, New Mexico was part of the annex that was Mexico's territory that covered a lot of the majority of Arizona and New Mexico back then. Before statehood, it was called the New Mexico Territory. The capital is Santa Fe. The largest city is Albuquerque. Total of 121,590 square miles. The dimensions are 370 miles long and 341 miles wide. The highest elevation is 13,161 feet. The lowest elevation is 2,845 feet. Total population, 2,120,220. It ranks 36th in the nation. Density rank 45th in the nation. That's 17.2 for every square mile. The average household income is $46,744, which is 47th in the nation. The official language is non-spoken language, English, Spanish, Navajo, Carez, and Zuni. The time zone is the Mountain Time Zone. The U.S. abbreviation, which is one of my favorites, NM. Latitude and longitude, 31 degrees north, 31 degrees, 20 minutes north to 37 degrees north. Latitude, 103 degrees west to 109 degrees, 3 minutes west. On the state flag, there is the Zia sun. If you look at it like you look at a compass, it's north, south, east, and west. Each one of the 4 points of the north, south, east, and west points means something, like the 4 seasons of the year: spring, summer, fall, and winter. Another one is the 4 stages of life. Another one is other things, and so on. I did my first tattoo. I did that Zia sun. Instead of doing it red, I did it turquoise, because I am from the southwest New Mexico, and turquoise has to do with a whole lot of stuff between my wife and I and the parts of the country we're from. The state bird of New Mexico is a greater roadrunner. State fish is the Rio Grande cutthroat trout. The state flower is the yucca, which when yuccas bloom, it's amazing. It's beautiful. I've never heard of this, but the state grass is blue grama. I think we could say there's an unofficial state grass of the state of Alaska, which anybody who's 420 friendly might know what I'm talking about. I'm just being funny. The state insect is the tarantula hawk wasp, which I don't know if you can get stung by that one. I don't think I've ever been stung. If it does, I've been stung by regular hornet wasps. The state mammal of New Mexico is the American black bear. The state reptile is the New Mexico whiptail, which is a lizard. State tree, which is one of my favorites, the two-needle pinon. And yes, I said pinon, so I think loosely translating, it means pine. So if you've ever had pine nuts in the grocery store, which are very expensive to have, that's a pinon nut. Colors are red and yellow, which are the colors of the flag. Yellow with the background with the red Zia sun. The state food, which is one of my favorites, Hatch, New Mexico green chili. But this one's chili peppers, pinto beans, and bichotta cookies. The fossil, I can't even pronounce that. It looks like if you look at the skeleton, it looks like kind of like a velociraptor with a little bit longer neck. And here's the state gemstone is turquoise. So that's a little bit about New Mexico. It means a lot to me. It's my home state. One of the things I did forget was the nickname is the Land of Enchantment. One of the things that reminds me of that phrase of New Mexico, the Land of Enchantment, is Georgia O'Keeffe. Her paintings are the definition to me of the Land of Enchantment. And if I could, I would decorate at least a room of my house with her paintings. Up here in Alaska, there are two of the guys that I like are Byron Birdsall and Fred Mockentons, and they're two of mine that I would definitely decorate another room with. I don't think I could put the three of those in one room together, but it's if you like art and you like paintings and stuff like that, those are three local artists to my two states that I absolutely love. All right, that's it for New Mexico. January 6th. Let's get on to January 3rd. January 3rd was when Alaska was admitted to the Union. It was no longer a territory. As I did state previously, there's Alaska Day, or Alaska was a state, and then there was the celebration down in Sitka where the Russian Federation turned Alaska over to the United States, and that's another day. But the actual day where Alaska celebrates its birthday is January 3rd. So with that being said, I'm just going to run through a few things about Alaska you may or may not know. I wish I could pronounce this all, but with all the different tribes here, Alaska Native tribes up here, there's different pronunciations on how they say Alaska. One of them is Aluktik. The Alutiiq say Alaskak, and it is, like I said, I'm butchering the hell out of this, but so some stuff about Alaska. The nickname is the Last Frontier. Our motto is North to the Future. The song that I had played for my Hobo Jim tribute episode was the Alaska's flag song, or that's our anthem. Before statehood, we were called the Territory of Alaska. In January 3rd, 1959, Alaska became the 49th state admitted to the Union. So a cool story about Alaska and, our birthday and this and that. Back in, I want to say like 2009. So our local, this was back before Elmendorf Air Force Base and Fort Richardson Army Base were joined to become JBER, Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson. It was just Elmendorf, and like during July, sometime in July, they have a air show, and there hasn't been one for a few years, but I think it used to be every year, and then it was like every other year, or maybe it was every other year. I'm just not putting the time frame together, but like one year, the Air Force Thunderbirds would come, or one air show, and then like the next one, they've had the Navy Blue Angels, and all kinds of stunt pilots and stuff like that, and cool performances. Well, anyhow, that's usually a Saturday and Sunday. Well, that year was 2009. My brother Kevin and I, we went out on a Friday night. They had a free concert, and it was Winona Judd. We had just lost our grandfather in 2007, and we've always been Judd's fans, so my brother and I, we went. Well, Winona did all of her songs. She also did a cover of Merle Haggard's Are the Good Times Really Gone? I think some of y'all might think that song's really named a snowball headed for hell, but it's Are the Good Times Really Gone? That became one of my favorite songs of her singing it. Well, anyhow, after she did all of her songs, she brought her mom out, and she was not billed on this concert, but she brought her mom out. So Naomi was here, and they sang a few songs. And at one point, this was Alaska's 50th birthday. So yes, it was 2009. And so Winona, she had stopped and she was talking, and she said, "You know what? I am older than Alaska." So yes, that's how I remember that was 2009. But that was my story about that year. And getting on to my grandfather passing away, was my sister had a friend sing the Judd's grandpa at his funeral. As you can tell, I'm kind of choking up a little because of that, but you can only imagine my brother and I choking up while we were hearing that song live. It was good times. Getting back to Alaska, our current capital is Juneau. We talked about that in the Inside Passage. There for a time, up until the actual transfer of possession, or along those time periods where Alaska was admitted, Sitka was the head, or the considered the capital during the territory times. Our largest city is Anchorage. The largest metro and urban areas is Anchorage. Our current governor is Mike Dunleavy, and not that he's biased, but he did come from, and I believe he was the mayor at one point. He was the mayor of Wasilla. So I'm not saying he's biased. He's the governor. He's taking care of the state, but that hits him close to home about the disaster declaration for the Matsu Valley. Like everything over in Washington, we do have our upper house is the Senate, our lower house is the House of Representatives, and then our judiciary is the Supreme Court, the Alaska Supreme Court, with 2 senators and a House representative. Not going to say their names because I'm not going to go there. Total area is 663,268 square miles. Of that, 571,951 is land, and 91,316 square miles is water. Area rank for you Texans, our area rank is 1. So size does matter. Yes, it does. There is a saying here. In 1959, Texas became the second largest state, and you can cut Alaska in half, and Texas would be the 3rd largest state. The dimensions: 1,420 miles long and 2,261 miles wide. The elevation is 1,900 feet. I don't know how that is because, Anchorage is kind of right on the water. and it sure isn't 1,900 feet from the water to the land. The highest elevation is Denali, 20,310 feet. Lowest elevation is 0. So I don't know how that 1,900 came in. As of 2020, our population is 736,081, which is 48th out of 50. The density is 1.26 per square mile. So for every square mile, there's 1.25 person. Density rank is 50. The median household income is roughly 73,181, which is 8th in the country. Out of the Alaska Native tribes up here, there's almost 24 official languages. Out of that, 86.3% is spoken English. 5.2% is spoken Alaska Native languages. 3.4% is Tagalog. I never heard that before. Let me see what that says. That says Austronesian language, spoke as the first language by the ethnic Tagalog people, who make up a quarter of the population of the Philippines. So 2.9% is Spanish, and then 2.2% is other languages. So I did say previously that we are the farthest north, the farthest east, and the farthest west state in the country, which is still all true. East of 169 degrees and 30 minutes is on Alaska time. In the summer, our daylight savings time is Alaska daylight time. West of 169 degrees, 30 minutes is the Hawaiian Aleutian time. So I said the farthest west. So that portion is on Hawaiian. And then in the summer, they are on the Hawaiian daylight time as well. Our USPS abbreviation is AK. I've gotten people years and years and years when I tell them what's Arkansas. They say Arkansas. I said, no, Arkansas is AR. Latitude and longitude are 51 degrees, 20 minutes north to 71 degrees, 50 minutes north, and 130 degrees west to 172 degrees east. Our state flag is a blue background with gold stars, and it is the Big Dipper. The North Star is Polaris. Those are the 8 stars. So if you know anything about constellations, the Big Dipper is 7 stars that make up the tail of the Bear Dipper. And the Polaris is the start of the handle of the Little Dipper. Some living insignia. Our state bird is the willow ptarmigan. Our dog breed is the Alaskan Malamute. Our fish is the king salmon. One of my favorite flowers is the forget-me-not. Now this is weird. I did not know this either. Our insect is the 4-spot skimmer dragonfly. Our mammal on land is the moose, and the marine mammal is the bowhead whale. Our tree is the Sitka spruce. Inanimate insignia, the fossil is the woolly mammoth. The gemstone is the jade. Mineral, of course, is gold. And other is dog mushing, which is Alaska state sport. Some other cool stuff is on my Facebook page. You see the route marker that is the square sign with the dipper as well as a 1, and it says north. That is a state marker for our roads. It'll tell you what highway you're on. I always like, since I am the upper 1, I put that 1, and it says north, just like it says north to Alaska. And then in 2008, when they started releasing those state quarters, our first one was stamped with the bear on it. I'm sure any of you guys that have collected any of those may have come across a few of those Alaska quarters with the bear on it. All right, so that's it for this 30th episode. I want to thank you again for joining me. As I close this episode down, I want to leave you, it's been a while, so I'm going to leave you with a couple of random facts. And also, I'm going to make some bold predictions with the end of the NFL season, the regular season coming to a close, and the playoffs starting, as well as the college football championship. So let's get started here. The first reported world's smallest reptile was January 2021. The itty bitty chameleon was recently discovered and reported by Scientific Reports in an issue. The picture that I see, it is as small as a person's index finger. So you could probably just put it on your fingernail and it would be just as big as your fingernail. One that I did know was hair and nails grow faster during pregnancy. Your new car smell when you buy a brand new car, that is a combination of 50 plus chemicals known as volatile organic compounds. The narwhal tusk reveals its past living conditions. And last but not least, since I have a set, more human twins are being born now than ever before. Just a couple of quick, small, random facts. So on to the football final regular season. It's going to come down to the wire, I think. The teams that I'm rooting for to win that final game because my Cowboys did lose to Arizona. It dropped them from second place in the NFC to fourth. There's a combination of stuff that I'm hoping is going to happen. I'm going to predict that San Francisco beats the Rams. The Seahawks beat Arizona. I'm going to predict this, I need Carolina to beat Tampa. If all three of those happen, the Dallas moves back up into second place. So I'm hoping, but I'm predicting, as well as I believe it's the final week. Teams are not going to play their starters, so there might be a couple of, I'm not going to call them upsets because, you play your starters against the best teams, number 2 and number 3rd string players. There's going to be some not so much upsets, but there's going to be some wins that it's not going to come from it. I think Kansas City's going to fall and not be the number 1 seed. I don't know who has a chance for that. Buffalo maybe. And then we get into the playoffs, so we'll see how that seeding comes out. I think Green Bay is going to stay with the number 1 seed, but hopefully, like I said, Dallas will be the number 2. And then I don't know where, if Arizona loses to Seattle, then I think the Rams, no matter what they do, will be the AFC West champs. So that would put Tampa probably in 3rd and the Rams in 4th. Should that change? I don't know. I do know that as it would sit, if Dallas stays in 4th, nobody can catch Arizona in 5th. So that would mean Arizona comes back to Dallas for the first round of the playoffs. And I think we're going to get their number if that happens. For the college football championships, I was sad to see that Michigan lost to Georgia. But being the sports fan that I am, You root for the team that beats the team you're rooting for, or, if your team loses, you root for that team that beat them. So I am going to root for Georgia. In a close game, it's probably going to be in the upper teens or low 20s on the scoring. So hopefully Georgia will beat Alabama to win the National Football Championship. So after all is said and done, I'm not so much that sports guy that I could know the numbers to put on the betting line, because I only really bet when I'm in Vegas. But anyhow, I hope everybody has had a safe and wonderful New Year. Merry Christmas to all. You had a wonderful Christmas with your family. And this episode of the Upper One Podcast, number 30. So, Tim McGraw's song, My Next 30 Years. Well, here's to my next 30 podcasts. Thank you all for joining me. Thanks for liking and sharing my episodes and my social media pages. I really appreciate you. Everything, all my information's on the Facebook page, upper_one_podcast at yahoo.com, as well as links to the social media pages. So until next time, this is Scott coming from the Eagle River Valley. By the time this episode airs, I will have started the second half of my hockey season. So hopefully that first game back from break goes well for us. Stay tuned. We will join each other next time.